Intellectual understanding is one of those loops that we can fall into that will create needless suffering and dissatisfaction in our lives. What do I mean by intellectual understanding? Usually we approach this spiritual path through the inquisitive mind. We want to know, we want to learn, we want to understand. And we fall into this rabbit hole of learning more, understanding more. And the more we grow in this area, the less space there is for practice, or more of a disconnection there is for actual practice. So at some point, this becomes the full reason why we're still dissatisfied with life. And so we need to understand what is going on with the mind and what is going on with ourselves, that we continue to seek information and learning more, filling up the mind as opposed to emptying it. You can see that's why, or this is one of the reasons why the mind cannot stop thinking, because what we have done is that we have created an awareness of this spiritual path, and because our mind was trained to learn information, to absorb information, is going to continue to do that, and it's going to activate a sort of constant satisfaction of learning new things. So we've all been guilty of this, and we could say even victims of this, or if you don't want to use those terms, we have all fallen into this loop of learning more books, more documentaries, more models, more expressions of this teaching. And at some point, we still feel this quietness in ourselves, and we want to finally not be there. So we have to fully understand what it is that the mind is doing here. It is substituting our dissatisfaction of life with a constant yearning for more information. And it's giving us those little shots of adrenaline every time we make a connection, and we feel like, you see, it's the same thing that it was said in this material, and it's the same thing that somebody said, and it's the same thing. So the mind is running constantly looking for connections to see what is it that the message really means, and I understand it now. But in integration, something is lacking. And here's where the challenge is, because at some point we have to feel the challenge of saying everything that I have learned is meaningless in the face of experience. So we have to let go of this as that which informs us of our day-to-day life, how to behave. I'll give you a backstory of myself to tell you how I went through this loop and how I started to get out of it. When I started getting interested in these topics, I started learning everything that I could get my hands on. Again, everything that I mentioned: books, documentaries, teachings, materials, models, metaphysical structures of reality, everything that I could consume. And at some point I realized that that was just causing more of this excitement and anxiety and getting more and consuming more. I was lucky enough that I was introduced to Oriental philosophy early on in my seeking, that sort of balanced this consumption of materials. But at some point, probably 2 years after getting interested in this, I dropped everything. I absolutely dropped every single material that I was looking into, and I began to just dedicate myself to full meditation and allowing the integration to happen. Now here's the thing. We usually think that if I stop looking, if I stop informing, if I stop learning intellectually, then I'm going to miss it all, and it's not going to be helpful for me. Everything that I learn, I'm going to lose it because you're telling me to let go of all my understandings. What I'm saying here is not to let go, because you can't. Once you have been impressed with information, it stays there. What I'm asking is to let go of that information to guide you in your process. In other words, stop relying on information, conceptual information, to live your life, to live your process. Because that's where we begin to cycle in loops of dissatisfaction. And you will find that that time and that space that you dedicated for this seeking, you can now dedicate to meditation, contemplation, or simply allowing life to unfold. So the more you start surrendering all this information, all this seeking of knowledge into a practice that begins to integrate all of this, then you begin to feel less of that rush, because it's almost like an addiction to information, right? And we feel that that shot of hormones inside of us every time we're being exposed to new information or a new video. We're watching so many channels on YouTube. Why are we doing this if not for just a shot of adrenaline here and there to get that connection? This is another hindrance in meditation, right? We find ourselves just constantly looking to connect information, and thoughts are coming in to inform us and talk to us. So why not let go of it and see how something changes that is so beautiful, which is the fact that now that information, it's a resource that you can reference because you have been understanding through direct experience what it is that it meant. And that's what's missing. So that's the difference between wisdom and intelligence, the way we usually understand it. Intelligence being the capacity to form patterns and connect things. Wisdom is the direct understanding of that without having to reference concepts or ideas and structures and all of this. And so again, this doesn't say do not study anymore, do not think anymore about this. This is not an exclusive thing. It's just not to rely on that anymore and stop seeking for peace. You see, we usually say, well, is it bad that I continue to read books and watch documentaries? It's not bad. Just like sex is not bad, alcohol is not bad, drugs are not bad. All of these things are relative. Why are you doing it is the question. That's the honest challenge question here. Why are you doing it? What are you getting out of it? What are you seeking in there? Why do you drink? Why do you do drugs? Why do you have sex? Why do you seek information? Really question this. It's not a challenge question as to why are you doing it, but really, why are you doing it? And so ask yourself constantly, what am I seeking here? And the more you stop that and dedicate it to just understanding that which is coming through you, and the more this is going to just integrate. And all those concepts, all those models of reality, all those teachings, all those quotes that you remember, they're just going to come up as aid or reference to something that you are experiencing. And so you are beginning to be your own teacher, your own master, because you don't need anymore anything telling you what to do, how to behave, and how to react, and where is it located in your energy system, and what type of work you should do on this or that. They just become aids. They're not your teacher anymore. The teaching is already within you and pouring out of you. And that's the real integration. That's what we seek. So again, I'm not making a case against information and constant consumption of information. I'm saying, why are you seeking that? Question that. And see how much do you actually dedicate to the integration of this, which is in what we call unlearning. Falling into this peaceful silence awareness of being, which you can call meditation if you want. And that's the only recommendation that is done over and over again in all areas of our lives. I hope this video is helpful to show you how we all get trapped in this constant seeking of information, the more learning, the more understanding of concepts and ideas. And at some point, we do feel, just like with any other addiction or passion that we have for constant absorbing and consuming, right? How that eventually just shows us that it's not the way. We're still seeking outside. We're still stimulating form, thought forms. We want to sink all of this into silence. Again, I hope this is helpful and that you have a wonderful, peaceful day, and I'll see you in the next video.